Good morning friends. Today we are going to take up the chapter number 6 of class 9th geography. The name of the chapter is population, and we are going to, in this chapter we are going to study about the population. And now let's think, like, as we study different things like physical features or the climate or environment around us. Similarly, population is also an important aspect from the geographical point of view. Now, objectives of this chapter is to analyze the nature of population distribution, what is the distribution of the population throughout the world, and show the concern about the large size of our population, because if we are having large population, in that case we need number of resources to sustain our population, and we have to do a lot of planning so that our population can be healthy and can grow better, and we are able to sustain ourselves, and we are able to attain a satisfactory kind of a physical and all other resources around us. We are able to avail them and use them properly. So, and then the second is to understand the various occupations of the people and explain the various factors of population change. Then the third objective of the chapter is to explain the various dimensions of national policy and understand the needs of adolescents as underserved group. Now, one of the objective is, to tackle the huge population of our country. Our government has also come up with the national population policies, which is actually concerned about the health factor of the population and the distribution of the population, and how, and national population policy is actually looking forward for the better health conditions and better health conditions, and how the population can sustain and is able to lead a proper life. Now, why it is very important to study the population of a country? Because people are they are important to develop the economy and society. People make and use resources and are themselves resource with a varying quality, because all the resources that are around us, they won't be resources if human beings are not there, because we are the one who makes them resources, because they have certain value for us, they have certain use, so that is why they are being termed as resources and we are using them. Then population is the most important element in the social studies. Resources, calamities, disasters, all are meaningful only in relation to the human beings, because if human beings are not there, then they are not going to make an impact as far as the human aspect of the earth is concerned. Then their number, distribution, growth and characteristics. Number means what is the strength of the population, how much population do we have. Then the distribution means how much population is being scattered through the surface of the earth. Then the growth and the characteristics or qualities provide the basic background for understanding appreciating all aspects of the environment. So people are very, very important, and there is a necessity to study population, and study of population is also called as a demography. And because it's a special subject in geography where we study population, and it's very important because we get to know, like, what is the number of population that we have with us, and how we are going to provide them all the resources throughout the country, and do we have the sufficient amount of resources with us, and if not, then from where we have to make arrangement of the resources for the population. So there's a keen need to study population, because without the study of population we cannot plan for future. Then human beings are the producers and consumers of the earth resources, Therefore, it is important to know how many people are there in a country. So we should be knowing the count of the population and where do they live, how and why their numbers are increasing, and what are their characteristics. So all these factors are very, very important in terms of population. So we got to know the distribution, and there are a number of factors which affect the distribution of the population. Probably one of them is the climate, kind of climate a particular place is having. Then topography of a place is also there, which affects the distribution of the population. So we are interested to know the number of the population. Then we are also interested to know what are the characteristics, how well educated they are. And then other factors are also necessary. So as far as the study of the human beings is concerned, it is very important. Now, to understand the characteristics of the population, we need to explore population under the following. So basically in this chapter we are going to study about the three particular headings, that is population, size and distribution, what is the size of the population and how it is being distributed. Then how many people are there and where are they located. Then the second heading is population growth and process of population change, how the population is growing and how the population is changing. Then the third is characteristics or the qualities of the population, like what is the age, what is the sex composition, what is the level of the literacy, what is the occupational structure of the population, and what are the health conditions of the population. So this particular chapter we are going to study under these three main headings. Now, as far as the population size and distribution is concerned, India's population is, as far as the data of 2001 is concerned, is 1028 million is the population, which is accounting for the 16.7% of the world population. So we have a larger chunk of population in India. And then these 1.02 billion people are unevenly distributed over our country, over the vast area. The share of area with us is 3.28 million square kilometers, which accounts for 2.4% of the world's area. And then Uttar Pradesh is the most populous state of India, and which is accounting for about 16% of the India's population. So the most populous state is Uttar Pradesh. Then almost half of the India's population lives in just 5 states. So let's have a look like what all states are there. These are, one is Uttar Pradesh, then next is Maharashtra, Bihar, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Rajasthan. The biggest state in terms of area is only having 5.5% of the total population of India. Rajasthan being the biggest state in terms of area, it is having just 5.5% of the total share. And the factor responsible for this is the kind of climate this state is having and the kind of topography this state is having. So that is the factor responsible for the this much amount of the population. Now over here we are able to see the distribution of the population. The maximum is the Uttar Pradesh, then comes Maharashtra, then comes Bihar, West Bengal and Andhra Pradesh. And rest all the other states combined together, they are actually leading to 51.2% of the population. Now in this map we are able to see the states which are most populated. They are the UP, West Bengal, the darker portion of the states, we are able to see it in the map. So we can actually categorize them into three parts, like three divisions. Like the most populated states are UP, Bihar, West Bengal and Kerala. They are the most populated. Then comes Gujarat, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh. So these are the areas which are having the moderated kind of population. And if we are going to see Arunachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, Rajasthan, so these are the areas which are having, as compared to the other states, they are having less population. So, and there are various factors responsible for that. Now, let's see what is population density. Population density in India is, as far as 2001 was concerned, was 324 person per kilometer, and density varied from 904 person per square kilometer in West Bengal to only 13 person per square kilometer in Arunachal Pradesh. So as far as the density of population is concerned, density of population means what are the number of people living in per square kilometer area. So what is the number of people? Now as far as the density is concerned, so West Bengal is leading, because West Bengal is having 904 people living in per square kilometer area, whereas we just have 13 people staying in Arunachal Pradesh in per square kilometer area. So that is what is population density is. Now what are the various factors which are actually responsible for the uneven distribution of population, or which affect the density of the population? One is the rugged terrain and unfavorable climatic conditions. So we have already discussed that states like Jammu and Kashmir, Arunachal Pradesh, so all these states, they are having very unfavorable climatic conditions, and on top of that the topography is also not favorable. So that is why we have less population living in these areas. And then Assam and the most of the peninsular states have moderate population densities. Hilly, dissected and rocky nature of the terrain, moderate to low rainfall, shallow and less fertile soils have influenced population densities in these areas. So we have a moderate kind of population density in these particular states. Now the northern plains and Kerala in south, they have very high population densities because of the flat plains and with the fertile soil and the abundant rainfall. So if we are going to see what are the basic factors which are responsible for higher density of population in these areas, is the very first one is the very favorable climatic condition. On top of that we have a flat land available. So most of the people would like to settle down in those areas wherever the flat land is available. And then along with the flat land, the climatic conditions are quite favorable. We do not have extreme temperature conditions the way we have it in the hilly regions of India. And then availability of water is there. And due to the flat land, a lot of infrastructure is also available in these areas. So that is why we have maximum concentration of population in these areas. Now let's see what is the population growth and the process of population change. Now let's see, population growth refers to the change in the number of inhabitants of a country or a territory during a specific period of time, say during the last 10 years. So if you are going to calculate what is the population growth, then we can actually take down the data from the census, and we can study like what was the population density in 2000, and then if we are going to take the census of 2011, then we can actually straight away minus the total number of population from 2011 to 2001. So we will be getting a figure that will tell us about the population growth. And as far as the process of population change is concerned, the change can be expressed in two ways. One is the absolute numbers in terms of percentage per year. Now the absolute number is calculated simply by the subtraction and the earlier population, and then the next is, if you are going to calculate another method is by the percentage method. Then now if you are going to see, population is dynamic phenomena. Why we call it as a dynamic? Because it always keeps on changing. Then the numbers, distribution and composition of the population are constantly changing. This is the influence of the interaction of the three processes. Basically, why do we see a change in the population every time? Because the basic three factors which are responsible for bringing change in the population is namely birth, then death and migration. So birth rate, death rate and migration. Now if you are going to talk about migration, so migration can be subdivided into two. One is the internal migration and one is the external migration. So as far as the internal migration is concerned, internal migration does not make any change in the population as such. But yes, obviously external migration always give an effect onto the total number of the population of a place. Now what is birth rate? Birth rate is the number of live births per 1,000 person in a year. In India, the birth rate have always been higher than death rates. So death rate is the number of deaths per 1,000 person in a year. In India, there is a rapid decline in the death rate, which is the main cause of growth of the Indian population. So if you are going to compare the situations from the year 1947, since we have got independence, if you are going to study the demographic transition of India, so earlier the time was that the birth rate was also very high, and along with that the death rate was also very high. But now, since lot of efforts have been made from the government side, lot of plans have come up, so due to all these facilities available, so the death rate has drastically gone down, and so we have made a lot of contribution as far as the health sector is concerned. So due to the decrease in the death rate, so we are actually able to see lot of growth in the population. Then till 1980, high birth rate and declining death rates resulted in the higher rate of population growth. But since 1981, birth rates have also started declining gradually, resulting in a gradual decline in the rate of population growth. So if you want to see the data of 1980-81 census data, so we are able to see that even the birth rate have also declined. But the only thing is that the base population of India is quite high, so a slight increase, if you are going to consider about 1% growth, that is also going to be resulting into a huge number. Then migration is the movement of the people across regions and territories. This can be internal or international, that is between the countries. Internal migration does not change the size of the population, but changes the distribution of population within the nation. Now in India, most migrations have been from rural to urban areas because of adverse conditions of poverty and unemployment in the rural areas, and increased employment opportunities and better living conditions in the city. So basically we can say that there is a push factors from the rural areas and there is a pull factor from the urban areas. So most of the migration as far as within India is concerned, we have it from the rural to urban areas for a better lifestyle. Now, effect of migrations, it changes the population size, it also changes the composition of the urban areas, and it also changes the composition of the rural areas as well in terms of age and sex composition. In India, the rural and urban migration has resulted in a steady increase in the percentage of population in cities and in towns. So if you are going to look back at the census and if you are going to look back at the population status of the different cities in India, so we are able to see that constantly there is an increase in the population of the metro cities, and then constantly there is an increase in the other major cities of India. Now let's see what is age composition. Now age composition of a population refers to the number of people in different age groups in a country. Now as far as how much people belong to which category of the age group, that is also very important when we study population. Now the number and the percentage of population found within the children working age and age group they are the notable determinants of the population, social and economic structure. Now it can be grouped into three major categories. The one is the children below 15 years, economically unproductive, need to be provided with food, clothing, education and medical care, and it comprises around about 34.4% of the total India's population. So the category which is below 15 years, they are not economically dependent, they are independent, they are dependent upon their parents for the for everything, and so all the facilities they are getting from their parents. Then working age, that is 15 to 59 years, economically productive and biologically also reproductive. So, and it is considered as a working population, and which comprises around about 6.9% of the total India's population. And so this is the age where people are economically, they are independent, they are not dependent upon their parents, they are able to earn, and they are also biologically reproductive, so they add on to the more population. And the third category is the above 59 years. It can be economically productive, though they may have retired, may be working, but they are not available for employment through recruitment. So a major part of the population also falls into this category. They are not economically independent. Some of them they are if they are retired, or it depends upon the consent of person to person also, if they want to work or they don't want to work. Now as far as the sex ratio is defined as the number of, now what is sex ratio? It is the number of females per 1,000 males in the population. This information is an important social indicator to the measure the extent of the equality between the male and female. So by studying the sex ratio, we are able to see what is the status of women in the country. And now if you are going to look at the data here, as far as 1951 is concerned, the data was, the number of females per 1,000 male was 946, and then so gradually in 61 it was 941, then in 71 it was 930, 1981 934, and if you are going to see 2001 data, the number of females per 1,000 male is 933. So we are able to see the number of females are declining. But as far as, but there are some exceptions in number of states like Kerala. Kerala is having sex ratio of 1,058 females per 1,000 males, and Pondicherry is also having 1,001 females for every 1,000 males. So these are the some of the areas, because, and the main factor that is responsible is people are highly educated over here. And then the literacy rate of these areas is high. And while in Delhi there are only 821 females per 1,000 males, and in Haryana it is 861. So if we are going to see the sex ratio in these two states, they are quite alarming. And there are a number of reasons responsible for this kind of figure, because of the literacy level, and then number of traditions, and more people they are interested in a male child, and as they look forward that male child is actually able to support the family, so the thought process is like that. Now literacy is a very important quality of our population. According to the census 2001, a person aged 7 years and above who can read and write with understanding in any language is treated as a literate person. And this definition of literacy varies from country to country. So as far as India is concerned, a person aged 7 years, who can read and write and is having understanding of any language, is treated as a literate person. So the literacy rate in the country as far as the census of 2001 is concerned was 64.84% and 75.26% for males and 53.67% for females. So again we are able to see a difference between the literacy rate of males and females, because males are being considered in number of areas as the people those who run the families. So they feel that it's a more important that male should be educated person so that he is able to support the family. Then now the next aspect is the occupation structure. Now what is occupation structure? The distribution of the population according to different types of occupation is concerned as the occupational structure. Now as far as the occupational structure of India is concerned, let's see what are the categories in this. One is the primary activities, then secondary activities, and the third one is the tertiary activities. Now mostly in India, people are involved in the primary activities. Major chunk of the population is involved in the primary activities, including agriculture, animal husbandry, forestry, fishing, mining, quarrying, etc. Now if you want to talk about the secondary activities, which includes manufacturing units and the construction. Then the third category is the tertiary activities, which includes transport, communication, banking, insurance. So all these administration services, all these they fall under the tertiary activities. So if you are going to see overall the countries which are developed, we will be able to find, if you are going to analyze the occupation structure of them, so we will be able to see that most of the people are involved in the tertiary and in the secondary activities if a nation is a developed nation. And if we are going to talk about, say if we are going to take an example of India, in that case, so maximum major chunk of the population is involved into the primary activities, so we can term as a developing country. And underdeveloped countries are mostly dependent upon the primary activities, whereas if we have taken example of India, here the people are involved into major part of the people are involved in the primary and then into the secondary activities and in the tertiary activities. So but when we are going to talk about the underdeveloped countries, so hardly few people are in like very less percentage of the population they are involved into the primary activities, and very few people are involved into the tertiary and the manufacturing units, that is secondary activities. Now the health is an important component of the population composition which affects the process of development. The death rate has declined from 25 from 1951 to 8.1 per thousand person in 2001. So we can actually see what is the drastic change in that. And the life expectancy at the birth has increased from 36 years in 1951 to 64 years in 2001. So the life expectancy has also increased a lot. So in India, the per capita calorie consumption is much below the recommended levels. The safe drinking water is also a major problem, and the basic sanitation amenities are available only to the 1/3 of the rural population. So these are the areas where we have to work a lot to improve the health of the people. Then now the national population policy, the government has come up with a few national population policy. Now what is the need of having national population policy? So that the planning of the families would improve the individual health and welfare. Now the government of India has initiated a comprehensive family planning plan in 1952, and This family welfare program has sought to promote the responsible and planned parenthood on a voluntary basis. Then one of the important national population policy that has come up in 2000 is a culmination of years of planned efforts. Then National Population Policy 2000, it also provides a framework for imparting free and compulsory education up to the age of 14 years and reducing the infant mortality rate below 30 per thousand, achieving the universal immunization of the children, then vaccination, preventable vaccination, and the promotion of the delayed marriages for girls, and making family welfare a people-centered program. So these are the major highlighted areas as far as the National Population Policy 2000 is concerned. So the main stress is being given onto these particular areas. Then, and the adolescents also have major problems as far as the population of any particular country is concerned. So National Population Policy 2000 has also has given a stress onto the problems of the adolescents. So because as a part of India, we know that we have the major portion of the population falls under to the category of the working population. So we have a huge population of adolescents with us, which is obviously a positive point for us. So there are a number of issues like STD, the sexually transmitted diseases. Then we have to delay the marriages, and the childbearing has also to be delayed so that we can actually reduce the birth rate. And then education of adolescents about the risk of unprotected sex and contraceptive services. Then providing food supplements, nutritional services, strengthening the legal measures to prevent the child marriage. So all these points have also been included in the National Population Policies 2000. Thank you.